Get out, Chloe. I want you gone tonight. The words didn't feel real. I stood on my own front porch, the December wind slicing through my thin sweater, staring at the man I'd shared a life with for 12 years. My suitcases sat at my feet, hastily packed and shoved out the door after me. "Ben," I choked out, my voice trembling. "It's Christmas Eve. Where are the kids?" "At your mother's," he said, his voice cold and flat. "We needed to talk, and I didn't want a scene." "A scene?" A hysterical laugh bubbled in my throat. "You're throwing me out of our home, and you didn't want a scene?" His eyes, which I once thought were so warm, were like chips of granite. "I'm done, Chloe. I'm done pretending this is a marriage. You're never here. You're always at the office. The kids need a real parent, not someone who's married to their job." The accusation was so monstrous, so upside down, it stole the air from my lungs. I'm at the office to pay the mortgage, to put food on the table while you've been figuring things out for 3 years. "See," he sneered, "there it is. The constant criticism, the lack of appreciation. Well, I found someone who appreciates me. Sophia. She sees me." Sophia. The name was a punch to the gut. "The woman from the bar?" I whispered, the memory of my friend's worried text flashing in my mind. He didn't deny it. A cruel smile touched his lips. "That's right. She's everything you're not. Supportive, loving, actually present." Tears finally spilled over, hot and shaming in the freezing air. "You can't do this. Please, Ben. It's Christmas." "It's the perfect time for a fresh start," he shrugged. "New year, new life. Without you." "The children," I sobbed, my knees feeling weak. "We have to think of the children." "They'll be fine. Better, even." His voice was venomous. "In fact, I'll be filing for full custody. What judge would give them to a workaholic mother with a temper?" The low blow was calculated. He knew my greatest fear was being deemed an unfit mother. He knew I had no family nearby except for my aging mother. "You monster," I breathed. "Face it, Chloe. You've got nowhere to go. No one. You're all alone. Just like you always have been." With that, he closed the door. The click of the lock was the loudest sound I had ever heard. I stood there, numb, staring at the wreath on the door, its cheerful red bow a mockery of my shattered life. That moment was the brutal end of a story that had started with exhaustion. My name is Chloe. I'm 38, a senior project manager, and for the last 3 years, the sole breadwinner for my family of 4. The 5:30 a.m. alarm was a daily assault. I'd slide out from under the covers, careful not to disturb Ben's snoring form. In the kitchen, the hiss of the coffee maker was my morning prayer. "Mom, I can't find my permission slip for the field trip," my daughter Lily would call from upstairs. "Check the counter, sweetheart," I'd yell back, scrambling eggs for her and her younger brother Noah. Noah would trudge in, rubbing his eyes. "I don't want to go to school." "You've got this, buddy," I'd say, ruffling his hair while simultaneously packing lunches and checking my work emails on my phone. Ben would saunter in just as we were about to leave. "Hey, babe, you got some cash?" The guys and I are hitting the driving range later. My smile would tighten. "Ben, we talked about the budget. The credit card bill is due." He'd roll his eyes, a familiar gesture of resentment. "Forget it. I'll just stay home. Again." The guilt trip was a well-worn path. I'd sigh, pull a 20 from my wallet, and hand it over. The argument wasn't worth the energy I needed for the day ahead. At work, I was a different person. Focused, capable, driven. My boss Richard had pulled me aside just last week. "Chloe, the Henderson account is a mess, and you're the only one I trust to clean it up. Get it done, and that director position is yours." The potential promotion was a beacon, a justification for all the late nights and missed dinners. "I won't let you down, Richard." I'd race out at 6 p.m. to pick up the kids from aftercare, my mind already racing through dinner options. Pulling into the driveway, I'd often find my best friend Elena waiting on the porch. "We need to talk," she'd said one evening, her face grim. The kids ran inside. "What's up?" I saw Ben at O'Malley's with a woman, a blonde. They were cozy. My heart plummeted, but my defenses shut up instantly. It's probably just a client, Elena. You know how friendly he is. She grabbed my hand. Chloe, open your eyes. You're killing yourself for this family while he's out living his best life. It's not fair. He's just in a rut, I insisted, pulling my hand away. He'll find his passion soon. I know he will. I'd walk into the house to find Ben on the sofa, a beer in hand, the game on TV. Hey, what's for dinner? I'm starving. And I, like a fool, would just swallow my frustration and head to the kitchen. Just keeping the ship afloat, I told myself. But that nagging feeling, the one that Elena had voiced, was a constant, dull ache. I was drowning, and the person who was supposed to be my partner was not only refusing to throw me a line, I was starting to suspect he's the one holding me under. I stood on the porch, the cold seeping through my clothes, staring at the closed door. The world had ended, and the Christmas lights on my neighbor's house were still twinkling. With shaking hands, I pulled my phone from my pocket and dialed the only person I could. Elena answered on the second ring, her voice thick with sleep. Chloe, what's wrong? He kicked me out. I choked, the sobs I'd been holding back finally breaking free. Ben, he's leaving me for someone else. He threw my bags out. I'm on the porch. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end, followed by the sound of rustling sheets. That son of a... I'm coming. Right now. Don't move. I nodded, sinking down onto my hard shell suitcase, the cold of the concrete steps seeping into my bones. I was a statue of despair. Then, headlights appeared down the street. For a wild, heart-lifting moment, I thought it was Elena, coming impossibly fast. But the car slowed and parked right in front of my house. A woman with sleek blonde hair got out, her laughter carrying on the frosty air as she practically skipped up the walkway to my front door. She didn't even see me huddled in the shadows. The door opened before she could knock. Ben stood there and he pulled her into a deep, lingering kiss. Sophia, he murmured. I turned away, the sight of physical violation. This was real. This was happening. Elena's car screeched to a halt behind the other one moments later. She leapt out, not even bothering with a coat, and enveloped me in a fierce hug. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm here. Come on, let's get you out of this cold. As she threw my bags into her trunk, I caught one last glimpse of my home in the rearview mirror. The Christmas tree glowed in the window. My entire world was in that house, and it was moving on without me. What am I going to do? I whispered, the truth of my homelessness finally crashing down. We'll figure it out together, Elena said, her grip tight on the steering wheel. You are not alone in this, Chloe, I promise. The first few weeks were a numb blur. I lived on Elena's couch, the rhythmic sounds of her family's life a painful reminder of what I'd lost. I functioned on autopilot, the only feeling a hollow ache in my chest. I worked late, not because I had to, but because the empty silence of Elena's living room after she went to bed was suffocating. My boss, Richard, noticed my manic focus. Chloe, my office, please, he said one afternoon, closing the door behind me. The work you've been doing on the Henderson account, it's exceptional. Frankly, it saved the project. I'm not going to pry into what's going on personally, but your professional worth is undeniable. The director position is yours, if you want it. Tears of a different kind pricked my eyes. It was the first solid ground I'd felt in weeks. I want it, I said, my voice firmer than it had been since Christmas Eve. The significant pay raise was a lifeline. It meant I could fight. And I did. My lawyer, Linda, was a shark in a pinstripe suit. She kicked you out on Christmas Eve, she'd said, her pen tapping a staccato rhythm on her legal pad. What a prince. Don't worry, we're going to make him wish he'd been nicer to Santa. She was as good as her word. She subpoenaed years of bank records, painting a stark picture of my sole financial support. She gathered affidavits from neighbors who confirmed Ben's constant presence at home during work hours. But the real turning point came about a month in. Linda called me into her office, a rare smile on her face. "You're going to love this. Our private investigator did a deep dive on your husband's girlfriend, Sophia. Turns out, Sophia has several aliases. She's wanted in 2 neighboring states for conning lonely men out of their savings. She cleaned out Ben's personal account, the one with the $5,000 you gave him for investment, and vanished." A bitter, incredulous laugh escaped me. The poetic justice was almost too perfect. The divorce hearing was a swift and brutal affair. Ben showed up looking haggard and desperate. He pleaded with the judge for leniency, for the house, for shared custody. He claimed I was an absent, work-obsessed mother. But then Linda presented her evidence, the financial records, the neighbor testimonies, and finally, the police report and details of Sophia's con artistry. She painted a picture of a manipulative, unfaithful husband who had callously discarded his family and then fallen victim to his own gullibility and greed. I watched the judge's face harden as he listened. When he spoke, his voice was like ice. "In light of the overwhelming evidence of Mr. Evans' financial dependency, infidelity, and the profound instability his actions have caused, I am granting full physical and legal custody to Miss Chloe Evans. Mr. Evans will pay child support as outlined and is granted supervised visitation to be reviewed in 6 months." Ben's face crumpled. But where am I supposed to go? The house. The judge didn't even look up from his papers. "Perhaps you should have considered that before your actions, Mr. Evans." As we walked out of the courthouse, a weight I had been carrying for years finally lifted from my shoulders. The sun felt warmer. The air felt cleaner. Lily and Noah ran to me from where Elena was waiting with them, and I hugged them tightly, truly breathing for the first time in what felt like a lifetime. "How does it feel to be free?" Elena asked, slipping an arm around me. I looked at my children's faces, no longer shadowed by the tension in our home. "It feels like I can finally breathe," I said, and I meant it. Just then, my phone buzzed. Ben's name flashed on the screen. I watched it ring, the symbol of all the anxiety and fear he had wielded for so long. "Everything okay?" Elena asked softly. "Yeah, actually, everything is great." I declined the call. Later that night, as I tucked the kids into their beds in our new, small but peaceful apartment, Noah looked up at me. "Mom, are you happy now?" I paused, really considering the question. The exhaustion was still there, but the dread was gone. The constant walking on eggshells was over. "You know what, buddy? I really am." Lily nodded from her bed. "We are too. It's quieter here." Her simple words meant everything. I hugged them both tightly, feeling tears well up, but for once, they were tears of relief. As I settled onto the couch, my phone buzzed again. Another call from Ben. This time, I didn't just decline it. I went into my settings, found his number, and pressed block. The action felt more final than any judge's decree. I looked around the room. There were still unpacked boxes, the furniture with a mismatched collection of hand-me-downs, but it was filled with a warmth and love that my old house had long lost. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. And for the first time in years, I was excited to see what the future held. What would you have done in Chloe's situation? Was she right to focus on her career and fight for her freedom, or should she have given Ben another chance after his betrayal? And where do you draw the line between supporting your partner and being taken advantage of in a relationship? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We love hearing your perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss our weekly stories of resilience, strength, and new beginnings.